The healthiest person you will ever meet reeked of wood smoke, rancid fat, and week-old sweat. And every single person around them found that smell comforting. Picture it. 50,000 years ago, there was no soap, no shower, no deodorant stick rolling under an arm, and here is the strange part. No word for gross, the way you mean it. The stench that would empty a modern elevator was simply the smell of a living, breathing, thriving human being. And by the end of this, you will understand why our species became the only ape on Earth disgusted by its own body. And I will show you the one thing your nose is still doing behind your back, right now, that you have trained yourself for years not to notice. Start with your morning. You catch a whiff of yourself, feel a flicker of shame, reach for the bottle. For your ancestors, a smell was never embarrassment. A smell was information. It told them who was sick before the fever showed. It told them who was fertile, who was afraid, what animal had died in the brush-up wind, whether the meat on the drying rack had turned. Their world spoke in scent, and they were fluent. Here is the thing worth sitting with. Their nose was not sharper than yours by some accident of biology. It was doing a full-time job that your nose has simply forgotten how to do. You still have the hardware. You stopped reading the signals. Now the danger, because for them, scent was never poetry. It was survival, and survival was brutal. Threat 1 lived in their hair. Matted, unwashed, warm. A scalp was a thriving ecosystem, and lice and their eggs colonized it generation after generation. This is not a guess. Archaeologists keep pulling the proof straight out of the dirt, and it points to a single object more common in the ancient record than any blade or spear point. Hold that thought. I will show you what it is in a moment, and it is not what you expect. Threat 2 was infection, and it killed slower and crueler than any lion. A wound left to fester, a tooth rotting in the jaw, throbbing for months. A sleeping skin fouled with grease and bacteria pressed against the body every single night. No antibiotics, no clean bandage, only time. And time was rarely on your side. Threat 3 was the smell itself as a matter of life and death. Your own scent, drifting downwind, could betray you to the prey you were stalking. It could hand your position to a rival band in the dark. Worse, a heavy human stink could smother the faint warning smell of a predator you needed to detect first. In that world, controlling your scent was not vanity. It was tactics. So what did they actually do, hour by hour, to stay alive in a body that never stopped smelling? First, that mystery object, the single most common grooming tool ever recovered. It was the comb. Fine-toothed combs carved from bone and antler, found across the ancient world, their tiny teeth worn smooth and rounded by daily dragging through hair to rake out lice and their eggs. Not decoration. Medicine you held in your hand. They scrubbed skin with ash and fine clay and river sand, abrasives that stripped away grease and parasites. They rinsed in cold streams. They stood in the smoke of the fire and let it wash over their bodies and their hides, because smoke kills vermin and slows rot. The first fumigation, done by instinct. They cleaned their teeth, too. Chewing sticks, frayed twigs from specific plants chosen because the sap fought bacteria. The world's first toothbrush, tens of thousands of years before the word existed. We know because the wear marks are still ground into the surface of ancient teeth. And here is the turn. They were not chasing clean. Clean, the way you imagine it, a scent of nothing, a body erased, is a modern invention. They were doing something far stranger and far more clever. They were engineering their smell on purpose. Animal fat, rendered soft and rubbed deep into skin and hair, did 3 jobs at once. It smothered lice, it sealed the body against cold and rain, and it carried scent, holding smoke and crushed herbs against the skin so the smell stayed put. Grease, ash, aromatic leaves, the perfume of the fire, blended and worn deliberately. These were the first cosmetics on Earth, tens of thousands of years before anyone poured perfume into a glass bottle. They did not want to smell like nothing. They wanted to smell like something specific, like themselves, like their people. Which brings us to the red. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, roughly 100,000 years ago, humans were grinding iron-rich clay into a brilliant red powder, ochre, and there is a whole tiny workshop preserved in the rock, complete with the abalone shells they mixed it in. They smeared it on their bodies. It may have worked as sunscreen, as insect repellent, as a dressing for wounds, as paint. But ochre was never only useful. They buried it with their dead. They painted it on the living. That red said, "This body belongs to us." And that is where smell stopped being chemistry and became identity. A band shared a scent, the same fire, the same ochre, the same rendered fat, and the same gathered herbs. To smell like the tribe was to be recognized, to be safe, to be home. To smell wrong was to be a stranger, and a stranger might be a threat. So here is the twist hiding underneath all of it. Humans did not become disgusted by smell because we grew dirtier over time. We became disgusted as we became social. Revulsion is a detector. It flinches us away from disease, from spoiled food, from the outsider who might carry both. Disgust is one of the oldest survival instincts we own, wearing the mask of good manners. And it never left. So let me make it concrete, testable, tonight. When someone walks into a room and before a word is spoken, your body simply decides you do not trust them. That is not intuition. That is the 50,000-year-old nose, reading fear or sickness or wrongness off their skin, and handing the verdict to your conscious mind stamped as a feeling. The one ape that learned to hate its own smell is the same ape that conquered the planet. So the next time a stranger makes your skin crawl for no reason, you can name, believe it. And then ask yourself the harder question: how many people have felt exactly that, walking toward you?